What's up guys, this is Top Tier Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Antwan Steele, and today I want to talk about what I think the top 5 decks are this format post-BOSH. And I want to preface this by saying that you can play whatever deck you want to play. This isn't all-inclusive by any means. You should be playing whatever you have the most fun playing. Let's go ahead and get into what I think the top 5 decks are, not just for fun, but competitively as well. The best deck by every standard is PePe, of course. YCS Sydney was last weekend, and they had 50% of the day 2 decks, about 80% of the top 32. And the reason why it's so good is because it can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. It has access to rank 4 engine that's amazing. Rank 4s are the best in the game by far. And then they also have access to synchros that can kind of get over everything, such as Ignister. So cards like Luster Pendulum give you access to Ignister. Ignister can pop opposing pendulum scales while spinning back their cards. It can also get rid of Kozmo ships because it doesn't target. But then with that, you also have things like Monkey Board and Joker, which are 1-card scales in and of themselves. You draw Monkey Board, you can search Joker, and Joker get your high scale. Or you can also start off with Joker, search Monkey Board, and use that to get your high scale. But either way, you're going to get your scales with one of those 2 cards. And the fact that you play 3 of both gives the deck amazing consistency. So then you also have Pendulum Sorcerer, which can pop your cards and search more cards. So when it destroys your own cards, it can trigger things like Ariadne if you play it, or Plushfire, which is just an absurd interaction. While also the Pendulum effect is good. It gives all your monsters extra 1,000 attack. It can get your Jokers attacking over Cyber Infinities. So that's a really cool thing that I see a lot of people missing out on. So PePe is a really solid deck this format. Second best deck this format is, again, no surprise here, Kozmos. And the reason Kozmos are so good is that if PePe doesn't OTK you, if they don't summon a ridiculous board that you can't get over, Kozmo will just win. You only need like a Farm Girl, like anything, or a Destroyer and anything, and you can OTK so easily with Kozmo that if you just have a glimmering small light of a chance, you can OTK easy. And so that's what makes Kozmo so good. And then even when they don't, you also have the disruptive abilities of having a Dark Destroyer and or a Slip Rider, and then a lower level one, so you can banish it during your opponent's turn, interrupt their combos, and that's really big. Kozmojo puts that on a whole nother level, whereas you can banish your opponent's cards, which is huge for getting rid of scales. It doesn't target, which is good in the mirror match, or against Leo. And it also can trigger your ships. And then also, Kozmo Tin Can. It gives you a solid first turn play, which the deck didn't have before. Because like before, you didn't want to go first because you wanted to OTK, or you wanted to trigger your Farm Girls, which you have to do by attacking, which you couldn't do turn 1. But now you have Tin Can, which you can summon turn 1, and then use the effect Search a Ship, which is a +1, and then if you want to, you can summon it. And it also works in your opponent's in phase, so if they destroy something, you can float down into it, get another +1. It's amazing. And then also, the ones that you don't add to your hand get sent to the graveyard. And the reason why that's so good is it allows you to play things like Call the Haunted, Oasis of Dragon Souls to get things back like Dark Destroyer, and when they're summoned like that, it triggers their effects. And so that gives the deck a whole nother dimension. So like before, you had to worry about what was in your opponent's hand. Do they have Destroyer in their hand? They can summon it, disrupt my play. But now you have to worry about what's in the graveyard too, because they can play Call the Haunted, get it back, and then disrupt your play. Or and sometimes they have both. You might have a Destroyer in hand and in grave, and then have a set Call the Haunted, and you're just kind of laughing at your opponent because you can do whatever you want at that point. And so Tin Can is really good because it gives the deck another dimension. And also those Call the Haunted have really good synergy with artifacts, which a lot of people are playing now as well. So the third best deck of the format is Burning Abyss. And I think the biggest thing about Burning Abyss that makes it good is that you can main deck hate for all the other decks. So you can main deck cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, Imperial Iron Wall, Mistake, Horn of Heaven. All of these cards that hurt other decks, you can play those in your main deck. Things that you expect to see in games 2 and 3, you're stealing games 1 with. And that's what makes Burning Abyss so good. Also, they have cards like Fire Lake, which they've always had. Now you can pop scales too, while triggering your Burning Abyss monsters. But Breakers of Shadows gave them a new card that I think makes the deck even a little better. That being Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Keeps your Fiend monsters, your Burning Abyss monsters, from triggering their effects on field. So what that means is you can now summon Burning Abyss monsters that won't blow themselves up if you have anything else. I think the biggest thing about it is that when it's sent to the graveyard by any means, so by detach, milling with Dante, etc., you can send a Fiend from your deck to the graveyard. So Fiendish Rhino Warrior is kind of like a second Graph. Because Graph is good because it can get any of your Burning Abyss monsters from your deck to the field, and then by that sent to the graveyard and get their effects going. Fiendish Rhino Warrior does a similar thing where it sends any Fiend from your deck to the graveyard, so it triggers all of your Burning Abyss monsters. And it's also level 3 Fiend itself, and so it can be searched by Tour Guide. Burning Abyss are definitely a very solid pick because you can beat any other deck right now just by maining hate for it. And I think that's extremely powerful right now in a format where most people are playing the same deck. If you think about like over 50% of day 2 was PePe. There's like another 10% that was Odd Eyes Magicians. So that's like 60%, maybe 60 or so percent of the field playing pendulums. And you can main deck Anti-Spell Fragrance and Mistake, Horn of Heaven. You're going to win a good amount of games like that. And that's why there have already been Burning Abyss decks that are stealing regionals. I think there was one or two maybe one top 32 at YCS Sydney. I'll have to check that. I'll put it in the description if there was or not. But Burning Abyss is a very solid choice right now. Mermails and Atlanteans. Abyss gives both of those decks a huge boost. I mean, huge. It's the one card OTK. Just like Kozmo, you just need a little bit of an opportunity and you can just win like that. I mean, it's amazing. Mermail Atlanteans can win easily with Abyss. I mean, you just summon it, send Dragoons, add Megalo. Megalo, discard the Dragoon, something else. Search with the Dragoons, get an Abyss Scale, attack twice. Yeah, game. It's easy. So Mermails have a lot of OTK combos that you can just do just from Abyss, and you have 1-for-1 and Deep Sea Diva to search Abyss, and then both of those can be searched by Dragoons too. So Dragoons can search Diva, which can get Abyss, which can dump more Dragoons and get more searches. It's a vicious cycle that Atlanteans can just kind of put you through, and just it's rough. But they also have access to Molan Glacier, which I think is a huge card in this format, whereas before it wasn't as big because you were playing against Burning Abyss and Shaddolls. And the problem with that was you'd send them to the grave and that would trigger their effects. But now you don't have to worry about that. You're playing against PePe and Kozmo where it's really good. So now you might summon a Molan Glacier, and you're hitting those combo cards out of a Pendulum player's hand. That makes it really hard for them to get around your board. So you summon something like Megalo with Abyss Scale and a Molan Glacier. They're staring down like these huge 3,000 Megalo with the equip, and then 2,800 Molan Glacier with 2 less cards in their hand. You're playing PePe and you start off with maybe 4 cards in your hand after the Molan Glacier. After you set your scales, you don't really have that much to really combo with. And so it can be really hard after resolving the effect. And then, of course, you still have the Mermail Abyss Mega Bro, just the bro of the seas over there. Can attack twice, triggers all your Atlanteans, both from your hand and on field. And it just does all the dirty work that you need in the deck, and it's still one of the best cards. The 5th best deck of this format is Odd Eyes and Odd Eyes variants, whatever they may be. I think the greatest strength that Odd Eyes Magicians have right now is their versatility. The fact that their engine is so small. You only need 3 Wisdom Eye, 3 Jokers, Dragon Pit, Dragon Pulse, Pendulum Call. That's it. That's all you really need in order to play the deck effectively. And you can put kind of any other engine you want in there. You can put in the Perform Palette engine. You can put in the Perform Ages if you want. You can put in things like Heroes. I've seen Volcanics. I've seen Infernity. I mean, you can do a lot of I think it goes with pretty much any good rank 4 deck you can put in with Odd Eyes Magicians. And I think it's that versatility that is their greatest strength, because a lot of times you can just steal games. Because if you look at all the other decks in this format, you kind of know what you're going to get. If you look at PePe, you know what they're going to do. They can do whatever, but you know what's coming. Kozmo, you know what they're going to do. With Odd Eyes, you kind of have to, you're on your edge a little bit. You got to be on your toes, because they can do something different that throws you off your game. They summon 2 Wisdom Eyes, and you're like, alright, they're going to do this. Well, next thing you know, they might summon a Shadow Mist. Pendulum summon Shadow Mist, and next thing you know, you're staring on Dark Law and Rafflesia. So, I mean, Odd Eyes Magicians are no joke right now. I do think they kind of falter because they lose to the same things that people are siding for PePe. People are playing Maxi, Veiler, Spell Fragrances, Twin Twisters. Those same cards are going to beat Odd Eyes Magicians. So I think that's kind of their biggest Achilles heel. That, along with the inconsistencies of playing hybrids. But aside from that, They're a very solid choice to have Apex Avion, which you have access to. It's a good deck. But with that being said, those are what I think the top 5 decks this format. PePe, Kozmo, Burning Abyss, Mermail, or Atlanteans, and then Odd Eyes Magicians and the variants of that. Those are the top 5 decks this format. Go ahead and give them all a shot. Thanks for watching.